Hey guys, welcome back. Here are the notes for Monday 5-4 and Tuesday 5-5. Okay? All right. Last time we worked on part one. All right. We introduced what the zero product property was. We used that property to go ahead and start solving quadratics. Okay, we're taking those trinomials, those quadratic equations, we are factoring them either using the X box or the grouping method. Okay, and we were able to come up with those solutions to that equation, or we also refer to those as zeros. Okay, awesome. So we're going to continue that today. All right. All right, so I'll post these notes to Schoology. You guys can print these off or just use lined paper in your notebook, whatever you prefer. All right, just remember for every real number, for the zero product property, okay, A and B, if A times B, if we multiply these two together and we get zero, then either A is zero or B is zero. One of them has to be zero. That's what the zero product property is, okay? Just like this one is saying A times B equals 0. Here we have x plus 13 times x minus 9 equals 0. So one of these factors has to be equal to 0. It's the only way to get 0 as a product. So we're going to take both of these factors, x plus 13, and we're going to set that equal to 0. And we're going to take x minus 9, set that equal to 0. All right, subtract 13, x equals negative 13, and 9, x equals 9. All right, so here we go. My two zeros are negative 13 comma 0 and 9 comma 0. Remember last week I showed you guys how to plug this in your calculator, and you can look at those zeros either on the graph or in your table. But that's it. That's the zero product property. Same thing with this. I'm going to take both these factors, set them equal to 0. So 9x plus 2 equals 0, and 7x minus 6 equals 0. Subtract 2, so 9x equals negative 2. Okay, so x equals negative 2/9. So this is why it was so important early in the year when we solved these 1 and 2 step equations, because now that's what we're going to do. So negative 2/9 comma 0 and 6/7 comma 0. Those are my two solutions there. All right, if I were to plug either one of those x's in for x here or here, okay, my answer is going to be 0. All right, so once again, guys, this is just review of factoring to solve a quadratic. All right, we're gonna be writing on these notes, but I'm gonna use my notebook just because I like using the lines a little bit better, okay? All right, so for example 3a, we have 10x squared plus 3x minus 4 equals 0. A couple things. First of all, you always have to ask yourself, is this in standard form? And it is, okay? Remember, standard form means the exponents are in descending order. And then, are there any GCFs that these three terms have in common that I could pull out to make it a little bit easier on myself? And the answer is no. So we're just going to have to factor this one as is. All right. All right. So I'm going to factor this one using the X box. So I'm going to multiply A times C. Negative 40 goes on the top. And the B, the middle term, goes on the bottom. All right. All right, now this is a negative 40, which means I've got to have one positive factor and one negative factor. So I've got negative 1 and 40, 1 and negative 40. Okay, I switched the sign because of that. These two will give me two different sums. Negative 2 and 20. And then I've got 2 and negative 20. All right, so you keep going. I think what I'm going to use is negative 5 and a positive 8. But that's how you would list those factors. You'd keep going, right? If I add those two, I get 3. If I multiply them, I get negative 40. So negative 5 and 8. All right. All right, come over here. So I've got 10x squared, negative 4, negative 5x, and 8x. All right, you guys should be getting pretty good at filling in that box if you use this method. All right. All right, so these two terms have a 5x in common. These two terms have a 2x in common. 2 times 4 is 8x, and 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. All right, so here are my factors. My factors are 5x plus 4 times 2x minus 1, and we're going to take that, and remember, it's still equal to 0. So we didn't change anything with the equation. All right, once again, this could be like 12 equals 0 or whatever, and this is just 4 times 3 equals 0. All right, we broke that trinomial into two factors. All right, well, this is my zero product property, okay? This is these two things, all right, multiply together equals 0. So I've got 5x equals 0, and then 2x minus 1 equals 0. So 5x equals negative 4, negative 4/5. So I just solve that equation. Over here, 2x equals 1, so x equals 1/2. All right, there we go. So my two answers, or my two zeros, negative 4/5, comma 0, and 1/2, comma 0. Okay. And of course, there's lots of different ways you can check that. Check that with our calculators. We could take those x's, plug them back in up here to make sure that they that satisfies that equation. All right. Okay. Look at B. 3b. So x squared minus 11x equals negative 28. So this one, you guys, you got to be careful. It's a little bit different. This is not in standard form because this guy's hanging out on the wrong side. We have to get this guy over to the other side. We do that by adding the opposite, right? So we add 28 to both sides. X squared minus 11x plus 28 equals 0. Now we're ready to go ahead and solve this by factoring, okay? All right, so give me two numbers that multiply to 28 that add up to negative 11. Now notice, this is a positive C value and a negative B term or middle term, okay? All right, if I'm thinking ahead, my signs have to be a negative and a negative because a negative times a negative is a positive, and if I add those together, I get a negative. All right, so what about 7 and 4? So I'm thinking 7 times 4, yep, negative 7 times negative 4. Yep, that will work. All right, so x minus 7, x minus 4 equals 0. Now, some of you guys may be saying, whoa, you didn't use the x box or you didn't use a grouping. Well, if you remember, since this a is 1, okay, I can just take those two factors and put them in my binomials there, right? So if I were to multiply this back out using your FOIL technique or whatever you want to use, that would work, okay? Add those up, you get negative 11, multiply them, you get positive 28, all right? And also, if you notice, Okay, when your binomial looks like that, you just set that equal to 0, but you just add 7 to both sides. You get x equals 7 and x equals 4. Those would just be kind of like the opposites. So 7 comma 0 and 4 comma 0. All right. All right, so just to show you guys again how to use your calculators for checking, you go to y equals, but you got to type this in standard form, right? So x squared minus 11x plus 28. All right, I can do this a couple different ways. If I go to my table, I'm looking for 7 and 4. So when x is 7 and x is 4. So there's one answer right there, 4 comma 0. And there's the other one, 7 comma 0. Those are my answers. All right, if you were to go to your graph, look at that, has a x-intercept at 4 and at 7. All right, look at that, there and there. So those are my answers. That's how you would find your answers. All right, fantastic. All right, let's look at, all right, the next one, C. All right, so this is 3C. So 49y squared minus 14y equals -1. First and foremost, this is not in standard form. So let's put this in standard form. And remember, to bring this over to the other side, I gotta add 1. Now, unfortunately, we're not in a classroom and we're missing a bunch of instruction. And we actually skipped a lesson about special cases. What do you guys notice when you first look at this, the relationship between 49 and 14? What number pops in your mind? I'm hoping the number 7 does, because 7 times 7 is 49, and 7 plus 7 is 14. In this case, -7 plus -7. So I can actually factor this one using, okay, the special case. So what I mean by that is, in order for me to get this first term, I'm going to multiply 7y times 7y. Okay? Your first step in FOIL is first times first. This times this is that. Okay? Now look at this number. How do you get that last term? Okay, you multiply last term times last term in each binomial. Well, how do you get 1? How do you get a product of 1? 1 times 1. And the last thing, okay, is we have to have the outside, so this times this, and this times this. Those have to add up to a -14. So it's got to be a negative and a negative. Let's see if everything works. If I were to multiply this back out, 7y times 7y is 49y squared. -7y minus 7y is -14y. And then -1 times -1 is a +1. Now, the good part about this is you could use your Xbox or your grouping method to solve that. All right, but there is, once you start getting better at this, you can try to factor these kind of with mental math. Now, since these are both the same, all right, which means I'm going to have just one 0 or one solution, I only have to solve one of these factors, or take the factors instead of equal to 0. So 7y equals 1, so y equals 1/7. Okay, or 1 comma 7 comma 0. Okay, so what that means, you guys, what that means is if I were to look at my graph, all right, let's say that this was 1, okay, 1/7 may be, I don't know, right there. My graph is going to look like that. It's going to have one intercept. That's it, because I just have one solution. All right. All right. Let's look at 3D. I've got 4x cubed minus 20x squared plus 3x minus 15 equals 0. Okay. All right. So let's do something different with this one. What do you notice about this one? What I notice right away is it's a cubic. Okay, we haven't factored cubics yet unless we take out a GCF. All right, but let's do this. Let's see if we can somehow group this and see if we can take something out of those two and these two. So look at, if I take out, it looks like these two both have a 4x squared in common. I'm left with x minus, looks like 5. And just to double check, 4x squared times x is 4x cubed if I were to distribute this. And 4x squared times negative 5 is negative 20x squared. Perfect. What do these two have in common? These two have in common, looks like 3. And I'm left with an x minus 5. Well, what do you know? Look at that. All we did was we applied our grouping technique, and I noticed that those two came out to be the same. So my factors are 4x squared plus 3 times x minus 5 equals 0. And again, you guys multiply that back out, and you're going to end up getting that original polynomial, that cubic polynomial. So now what I can do is just go ahead and set these equal to 0. So I've got 4x squared plus 3 equals 0, and x minus 5 equals 0. Well, this one's easy. This is just x equals 5. This one, 4x squared, okay, equals negative 3. Divide by 4, x squared equals negative 3/4. And then in order for me to get rid of that square, I got a square root. Here's the issue, all right? Can you square root a negative 3/4? No, remember now that's gonna be a complex number. But for right now, we can just say that's gonna be, this one's gonna be extraneous. Extraneous, I can spell it right, is just a fancy way of saying that this is a solution that does not work. Okay, it doesn't work. So my answer for this one is just going to be x equals 5 or 5 comma 0. So just to kind of recap on this one, this is a little bit more difficult. I noticed that this was a cubic. I used my grouping technique to factor this. I took my factors, set them equal to 0. This one just came out to 5, and this one was extraneous because at this step, there's no way I can square root a negative number and get a real answer. I can get a complex one, imaginary answer, but I don't want that. I want the real solution. So the answer is just going to be 5. There's my 0, and that's my x-intercept. All right, guys, you're doing a great job. Let's keep going here on the back side. So I'm looking at my notes, and I'm looking at this right here, example 4. All right, same idea. All right, this time we've got 2x cubed minus 22x squared minus 120x equals 0. All right, so once again, you guys, look, I notice that this is a cubic. When I see that, the first thing that pops in my head is, can I get rid of that by taking out a GCF? If you notice, they all have an x term. So I'm going to take out an x, and they're all even numbers. So I'm going to take out a 2x, and I'm left with x squared minus 11x minus 60 equals 0. So all I did was I divided 2x out of each of those. I took it out of each term, or divided it out of each term. All right? Okay, now don't forget about this guy. This guy is still a factor. all right? But we're gonna put him to the side, and I'm gonna factor this trinomial, okay? All right, now again, you can use your X box, you can use your grouping, or you can just say, all right, I think it's gonna be -5. Nope, not -5 and I thought -5 and -6, but it doesn't multiply here. Let's see here. Let's go 15, I believe 15 and 4. So -15, -4. This would be a positive. All right, so these are going to multiply to -60 and add up to -11, in which they do. So once again, guys, I don't want to go over that too quickly, but if you're having trouble with the factoring, go back to a previous lesson, watch that over again, and then just factor that. All right, now if you notice, how many factors does this one have? This one has 1, 2, 3 factors, and that's because this is a cubic. Okay, it's a cubic. All right, so I'm going to take each factor and set it equal to 0. So 2x equals 0, x minus 15 equals 0, and x plus 4 equals 0. So x equals 0, x equals positive 15, and x equals -4. So all I did was I solved for x. Okay, added 15 and subtracted 4. So you'll notice I have 0, 0, 15, comma 0, and -4, comma 0. So I have 3 answers, which means my graph crosses the x-axis at those 3 spots. Now watch. We haven't done a lot with cubics yet, but 2x cubed, all right, minus 22x squared minus 120x. All right, I'm going to go to my zoom set. I'm going to my graph first. Okay, so it looks weird. It's because I need to zoom out. So let's go zoom out. Let's see if that looks better. Sort of, but let me go my window. Let me see if I can get a better picture of you for you guys, okay? All right, so let's go x min, I don't know, we'll just go -5. X max, we'll go 20. Y min, let's go 100, and let's go -100 just to see. Ooh. Almost there. So -200, let's go up to 120. All right. So if you notice, look at the graph, guys. The graph goes up, curves, goes down, and it looks like I really need to go 500 maybe. I think it was that much. Goes up, goes down, curves, and comes back up again. But if you look at my zeros, all right, -4, 0, 0, and 15, comma 0. All right. Okay. So let's go up to 150. 1,000. Man, it's still going down there. Yep. But there you go. That's what the graph looks like. See that? It's a cubic. So I have 1, 2, 3 zeros. Okay, and the last one we're going to do, you guys, we'll stop on this one right here. Let's see here. All right, let's look at example number 5. That's an interesting one. All right. All right. So example number 5 talks about having a box that has an open top. All right. So for those of you guys who have a hard time visualizing what that looks like, okay, here's my box. If I were to cut out the corners and then fold up on those dotted lines, okay, you guys hopefully can visualize that you guys would make a box that does not have a top. All right. It says it has a width of x, a length of x plus 3, and a height of 1. Now, height, if I take this edge and fold it up, this is going to be my height. All right. So these are all, this height is 1. Okay. So if you were to cut this out, that height would be 1. It says I have a volume, an area of 130 square inches. All right, so here we go. We're gonna take length times the width times the height, and that's gonna be 130 square inches. So all they did was they gave you an example to get you to write that out. So those are my 3 factors. Now this is in factored form. They want to figure out what the dimensions are. So I need to figure out what x is. So this is going to end up being a quadratic. So let's go ahead and multiply this together. I get x squared plus 3x is equal to 130. All right. And then I get x squared plus 3x minus 130 equals 0. So what I did was I took this, set that equal to 0. All right. Fantastic. Now let's see if we can go ahead and factor this by using, so x times x. Look at my signs. They're going to be different, and they're both going to be, and the bigger one's going to be positive. So positive and a negative. So I need factors of 130 that have a difference of 3. All right. So 130 divided by x. Divided by x. All right, have a difference of 3. Aha, what about 10 and 3, or 10 and 13? So I'm gonna have a positive 13 and a negative 10. Multiply the negative 130 and they add up to 3. So x equals negative 13 and x equals 10. So what do you guys think? Listen, we're talking about dimensions. Can we have a negative dimension? I don't think so, all right? So this one is gonna be extraneous. It's not gonna work because I can't have a negative 13 length. So that means that x is 10, x plus 13, or 3 is 13. All right, let's see if that works. What if I multiplied length times width times my height, which is 1? That gives me an area of 130 square inches. It worked. All right, guys, great job. We're going to end there. Your homework is the same worksheet as last week, but now you guys are going to do that back side. Okay, so you're going to start with number 31, and you're going to end with 49. I'm going to put another video in this in today's folder because I want to do a little mini review with graphing the quadratics, looking at the vertexes and stuff like that. So look for that as well. But this, guys, is going to be your homework. Make sure for these ones you show me all your work, all right, in order to receive credit. All right, guys, hope you guys are doing well. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.